Welcome to the Student Congress debates featuring our three candidates. This is for Student Body President, Erin Bradley, Heather Burns, and Corbett Austin. What we're going to go ahead and do is let each of you guys speak for about 2 minutes about why you're running and kind of, give your positions, and then we will move on to the 5 questions that we all agreed upon beforehand, and then people in the audience will be allowed to ask questions. So speaking order has already been determined, so go ahead and start.
Cool. Hey everyone, I'm Corbett Austin. I'm a junior political science major here at Southwestern with a focus sort of in international affairs. Aside from participating in Student Congress the past 2 years, I've been sports editor at the Megaphone. I've won a couple of awards in our university's Monument team. I've been the philanthropy chair of my fraternity, and what else? I'm currently creating a Southwestern University Young Moderates organization that will be available next year. So all those random things aside, basically I feel like I've gotten to know a lot of people here at Southwestern, and I've learned that not very many people know what Student Congress has been up to for a while. As we can see with the amount of people here at the debate, which the camera can't see. And basically my campaign was to more collaboration to help Student Congress actually understand what student interests are. And I plan to do that in the election.
Great. Next.
I'm Heather Burns. I'm a sophomore sociology major here. And I really feel that after my 2 years on Congress, first as a representative and this year as a member of Executive Council, I've really developed a lot of leadership qualities and have gained a lot of experience in the workings of this university and some of its issues and strengths as well. And I think that one of the biggest things that needs improvement is the connection between student body and administration and faculty. And I'd really like to bring Student Congress back to its role as a liaison between those two spheres instead of acting as kind of almost a separate sphere itself. So really just increasing transparency and of communication between the student body and faculty and administration, and really reinforcing the ability that Student Congress has to address student issues and create sustainable solutions for the concerns and interests of the student body.
Thank you, Heather. Erin?
Hi, I'm Erin Bradley. I'm a sophomore business major. I've been on Student Congress for 2 years, and the past year I've served as secretary. I've also been the delegate to the Academic Affairs Council, which most of you have probably never heard of, but they're one of our more important governing bodies on campus. They deal with any issues that affect student life. And on Academic Affairs Council, I've really gotten to see how the university works behind the scenes. And you can ask anyone who knows me, I care very deeply about Southwestern and improving it in every way possible. And like Heather, I've also observed the void in communication, especially between students and staff and faculty, administration, and the Board of Trustees. So I'd really like to work towards having a more present student voice in the decisions made by administration and by the Board of Trustees. 2 years ago, we started the Board of Trustees mixer, which is nice, but it's like 5 minutes talking to a trustee member, telling them what your major is and where your hometown is, and we haven't really had any real substantial conversations. So I would like to work towards staying more connected with the Board of Trustees and with senior administration so that they're more keyed into what's actually happening on campus so that they can make more informed decisions. I also think that student body forums can be used to help Student Congress facilitate conversations between the student body and between faculty and administration by involving more people than just the student body in those conversations. Finally, I think that in the past, Student Congress has had a lot of really wonderful ideas, but in some instances we have lacked follow through. So I think what I can really bring to the presidency is the ability to lead Congress in having a clear vision and following through on all the ideas that we get started with, even if we encounter obstacles to find creative solutions to overcome them.
Great. All right, let's move on to our first question. Corbett, why did you decide to run for Student Congress President?
Thanks, Brady. Basically, I decided to run for president because as I participated as a representative for the past 2 years in Student Congress, I found it sort of odd that we, besides talking about the commons and parking issues, a lot of the issues that we addressed were mainly brought up by the faculty and staff in our committees. And we, throughout my participation in that, we did a lot of editing of things that go in the student handbook. One thing I do really appreciate is I was also on the Academic Affairs Committee last semester with Erin and Erin, and UP was very helpful for the future of our institution, and nobody really knows about it. So basically, if I'm elected, I would completely concentrate on trying to regain the support of the student body, and believe that like reaching out to different on-campus organizations and improving transparency by having student congress articles in the Megaphone, among other things, and also trying to help other student initiatives outside of student congress that I believe we haven't done before. That's what I would do if I'm elected, and that's hopefully what.
Heather, why did you run?
Well, I was mostly interested in the position because, like, not only have I spent a lot of quality time on Student Congress, like, seeing what the organization can do and what initiatives it's taken to improve student life. Sorry, like I've already, I'm sorry, excuse me. I've also participated in a lot of other student activities and organization, and have seen kind of the apathy that the student body feels towards Student Congress in terms of its ability to address their concerns legitimately and completely. And as president, that's one of the biggest things that I think is important to improve is communication between the student body and Student Congress and administration and faculty, as I touched on in my introduction. And I think that the opportunity to implement little changes or big changes for the student body would make them a lot more confident in our ability and the ability to make changes and to improve their experience at Southwestern in our community. And I like for them to trust us more, I guess. And I really think I've proven my abilities as a leader, but obviously not as a public speaker, through involvement on campus, through my sorority and through Student Congress, but also also in the Georgetown and Austin areas as a volunteer and an advocate for a lot of organizations that I work with. And I really think that of all my experiences, my accomplishments in Student Congress have really been the most rewarding for me, and I would really like the chance to improve the Southwestern community as president.
Great. Erin?
I decided to run for Student Congress because I spent the past 2 years on Congress just serving as kind of an opinion in meetings. And I have found a lot of personal growth in that, and I've really learned a lot about the way that Southwestern works and a lot about the way that students think and the things that they want to see happen. And so I would like to be in a leadership position where I can empower other student leaders to find a role on campus, to express their opinions, and to represent the student body. I also am really passionate about creating a more cohesive campus with students, faculty, staff, administration, and the board, and that's something that I really, really want to work towards as a kind of voice of the student body to foster that communication among everyone, as I said earlier.
Great. Next question. Corbett, what accomplishment from your time on Congress are you most proud of, and why?
Well, like I said before, my very first appointment was on the Academic Affairs Committee, along with Heather and Erin, to work on the QP, which is the Quality Enhancement Plan that we decided last year, which resulted in the new IDEA-like program for incoming students. And I believe that really helped our university in a positive way. However, nobody really even heard about it for the most part. A wide variety of students that I've talked to, they don't even know what it stands for, and I want to change that. So.
Great. Heather?
More than just like a single accomplishment or initiative like that I've been involved with as a member of Student Congress, I just think that like consistent and active participation in Congress and in like voluntary like committees and ad hoc councils and things like that has really been the most rewarding and the most rewarding thing that I've done while on Student Congress, because it really has helped me grow as a leader and in my confidence as a leader, and as well as my creativity as an effective problem solver, because I have seen just the different ways that issues can be presented and resolved and brought back to the students.
Thank you. Erin?
Like Corbett mentioned, I was involved with the conversations when we selected the quality enhancement plan topic, but I've also been on the writing team that's been developing like the 100-page proposal for the past year and a half. And I was one of just a couple students on that committee. And it's been a really great experience for me to talk directly with a small group of faculty, talking directly about issues that will affect students in a really big way in the coming years. And so it's been really fulfilling to be a part of something that's going to be a huge change for Southwestern. And I think it's going to be really beneficial for all of the students. And I think the most rewarding thing in all of my experience on Student Congress is just being able to clear up those miscommunications on campus. Because we know that communication is a huge issue on our campus. The only form that really works is word of mouth. And so that means that a lot of things get really distorted as they are passed around through people. And so one of my favorite things is just to engage a student or faculty member in conversation about something going on campus. And they have so many misperceptions and wrong information. And so I've really enjoyed being able to get out the correct information from Student Congress.
Thank you. Corbett, what do you feel are the biggest strengths of your fellow candidates?
Well, definitely both with Erin and Heather, their experience shows that they're very capable leaders and they care deeply about the school, being on the executive council for a year and being involved in all sorts of things, especially as sophomores. They've proved that they really care about the school, and I think they'll do a great job leading our school future.
Heather?
I think that Corbett and Erin's greatest strength is the respect that they have from the community at Southwestern. Erin has a really great connection with the faculty and administration, and she works really close with them and has gained like a great understanding of how the university's processes work and how you can create change through those processes and working with the system. And I think that Corbett has been involved in a lot of different activities on campus, and this his diversity has kind of allowed him to have a really interesting picture of student life and how it needs to develop in the future.
Thank you. Erin?
I think Heather's greatest strength is that she's in touch with so many different groups of students on campus, not organizations, but just different types of people. And she's extremely approachable, and I feel like any student would feel comfortable coming up to talk to her honestly about what's going on campus and what's going on in their lives. I think that could be a huge asset for the student body president. And I also think that Heather is definitely not afraid to stand up for what she thinks is right for the student body, which we definitely need. And Corbett obviously has an extra year at Southwestern than me and Heather. He has more experiences to draw from, and so I think that could really help him. He's also really respected on campus, as Heather already mentioned, and as we've seen through his campaign, he has a really clear vision for Congress, and he has his goals outlined, and I think that's a good starting place for a president.
Great. This time next year, how would you determine whether or not you had a successful presidency?
Well, basically, if people actually show up to student body forums, if they understand what's going on in student congress to the slightest bit, if they're excited about, let's say, a lot of kids want to frisbee golf course on campus and want to be involved in creating it, if we actually pick up initiatives like saving Dr. Mosser, one of our political science professors that a lot of people really wanted to
Thank you. Heather?
I touched a lot on how I think that a lack of communication is one of our biggest issues, and I think that one of the places that problem kind of fosters itself is in the lack of accountability for representatives and a lack of kind of like a lack of community or purpose outside of our bi-weekly meetings. Like, our representatives don't really go out to their constituents and talk to them and see what their interests and concerns are. They just kind of like show up at our meetings and listen, and you know, aside from a few students who are really, really involved, they don't really take what we say outside of our meetings necessarily. So I think that just a greater sense of community and purpose in Student Congress is something that I'd really like to see regardless of who's president. And I really want representatives to work together on projects that are important to students, and for those projects to have positive consequences for students, so that they feel that they're like really well represented and comfortable trusting Student Congress with their concerns.
Thank you. Erin?
I think we're all on really the same page here, but I would determine if my presidency was successful based on the success of Student Congress. And I think that Brady did a good job in the past year getting Congress more motivated than we have been in the past. And we have some really great representatives that want to do good things on campus, but I think that they don't exactly know how. And so I think that I would be a successful president if I could figure out a way to empower the representatives on Congress to go out and make change on campus. I think it would definitely be a huge accomplishment if student body forums were more highly attended and productive, and maybe look at doing them in a whole new format so that maybe they're a little bit more effective. And I would like to see us take action and follow through to the very end on student initiatives such as having pets on campus or improvements to the Pirate Buck system, which are things that a lot of students want. So I mainly just want Student Congress to have real substantial accomplishments that we can be proud of.
Thank you. Final question. What makes you the best candidate for the job?
Basically, I think my, outside perspective makes me the best candidate, probably not the most qualified, but from me getting to know all sorts of type of people around campus and sort of experiencing Student Congress from the representative side, I think that my vision can actually, and it also can actually happen. We don't write, the student organization section of Megaphone is, a lot of organizations write for it except for Student Congress. So that's a given. Also reaching out to like other student organizations to try to facilitate their cooperation and participation in our events is also feasible with the creation of our new external affairs chair. And basically, I think I can do it at the before I graduate, and that's what I feel.
Thanks, Corbett. Heather?
I think that through my involvement in Student Congress, I've had the opportunity to work with administration and faculty on a lot of initiatives that have impacted the student body and that help keep the university progressing. And I've also feel like I've made a lot of strong connections with the student body, and as a member of the student body, I feel like I understand their concerns and interests very well. And I really think I'm the best candidate to move Congress into a position where it serves as more of an effective liaison between the two spheres I was talking about. And I'm really dedicated to improving this university. It's so important to me, and although I'm involved in a lot of other organizations and activities like on and off campus, the purpose of Student Congress is really one of the most important to me, and leading this organization successfully has really always been and will be at the forefront of my attention.
Thank you, Heather. Erin?
I think we're all really clear that we want Congress to have really effective change in the next year. But I think to have an effective student body president who can lead Congress to do that, you need a combination of a certain set of skills. And I think that my experience and knowledge of what happens on campus and how it happens, combined with my creativity to solve problems, can really help follow through on ideas that representatives bring and make sure that they're actually successfully implemented and not blocked by lack
Thank you all. At this point, it is open to questions from the audience. So, Colin, you're first.
So as a member of Student Congress, I've noticed that a lot of the representation in Student Congress draws mainly from the humanities, and like the fine arts and the sciences are largely left out. Do you see this as a problem, and if so, what specifically would you do to address it?
Well, as election chair this year, I kind of got a real feel for how kind of ineffective the system that we have now is for electing representatives. There are a lot of people that are interested in being a representative of Student Congress, but because of the certain where they live or like their grade, it kind of prevents them from actually being a representative, maybe because the position's already filled or things like that. And I think that there are some sectors of our university that are underrepresented, like those educational departments, academic departments that you're talking about, as well as like, if you look at our Congress now, there's a lot of like discrepancies in, there's a majority like freshman and sophomore population where juniors and seniors aren't as represented, mostly because there's not as much of an accountability for our representatives as it stands, and so even if they're elected, they don't necessarily show up or like get involved. And I think that there's a lot of changes that we can make to the Constitution that would change the election process and open it up to people that are interested in being representatives.
So what kind of changes?
I think that that's actually a really good suggestion, making it more through the academic departments than through the residence halls, because there is a large population of students that live off campus, and it's hard to get those students to be representatives of their community because they don't know where those people live, they don't know how to contact them. But if you did it through departments, you know who's in your department, you know, you know who the faculty are, you know how those students, how their concerns manifest, and have a better understanding of how to like address those concerns.
I think another issue we've had getting fair representation on Congress is the actual time of our meeting at 6 o'clock on Tuesdays. That prevents a lot of science majors from being on Student Congress just because they have night labs and can't make it to the meeting, as well as athletes or students who participate in chorale and orchestra because they meet during those times. So I think that our new protected time policy that was passed recently is definitely going to help with that, because now there will be a reserved time period from 5 to 7:30 when classes aren't held. So hopefully we'll be able to get more students from all academic departments and not just humanities because their classes meet at a certain time.
I honestly don't think the major matters. We're a student body as a collective whole, and we all experience similar problems. Like trying to print out this speech, I had trouble printing out the computer lab because the technology doesn't work that well there. And whenever I'm trying to print out a paper quickly for class, I usually fail because either the computer freezes or the printer messes up. And it's just things like that that we all find common ground with. I feel like we need to focus on that rather than split each other apart, because it's a school of 1,200 kids, and us being divided in such a close atmosphere is ridiculous. And I feel like trying to bring the student body together into a cohesive group is what we should strive for. So.
I didn't quite get your answer. Would you be in favor of changing the current election system by housing to something else? Or not?
I mean, I don't really see like the departmental, like electoral, like system to be any different than housing, because I mean most students live on campus. I know the university is trying to make even more kids stay on campus, and I mean when we graduate, I mean a lot of people don't even use their major to do what they want to do. They go, if they're in business major, they might go do communication thing. I mean it's not something that I feel is
right, but that's all within the humanities. Would you say that someone in the fine arts would have a much different experience in Southwestern than someone in the humanities compared to someone in the sciences?
I mean, yes, in an academic way, sure, but I mean, we're all students. I have the same experiences as all of my friends that are science majors for extracurricular wise and for, our interests are similar. I don't see how that matters, or if that really is an issue.
Bill.
I'd like to comment and then a question.
Okay.
Just as a point of reference, over the past 10 years, there have been 4 different type of election systems. The one that you were talking about has been one of those. So I feel like it's really not the type of elections that are the issue. It's really has something to do more with the time. So just as Congress moves on, I know you'll all be on Congress next year. Think about that and think about those kind of things, because I feel like that's really more the source of the issue, not the kind of election. Because we keep spinning our wheels, changing elections every 3 years, hoping that it'll be the magic thing to fix it all. But just something to think about. Anyway, my question is that next year there are going to be 3 new things on campus. We're going to have a football team. We're going to get a new CIO. Well, we're going to have some of the members of the football team. We're getting the football team next year. We're getting CIO, and we're also having this new position, the external affairs position put on Congress. I was wondering what each of the 3 of you thought about those 3 things and how we can use those to help out Congress and how Congress can work with those new identities on campus.
We're also going to get enterprise running our web consultant there. No?
It's tentative.
Okay, well, tentative.
Contract hasn't been signed. Anyways, Erin, and then
Well, first I'll talk about the External Affairs Chair. In case y'all don't know what that is, we're creating a new position on Student Congress in our Executive Council, which will be someone whose sole purpose is communicating with outside groups for Student Congress and representing us. And I'm most excited about that position because in the past year we've reached out more to the Georgetown community and gotten involved with the College Town Project and other initiatives like public transportation. And so I think it'll be really helpful to have one person designated to represent Student Congress to the Georgetown community so that they have a contact person to stay in touch with. I also think that you heard me speak before about cohesiveness on campus, and I think that the new CIO is an opportunity to make a step in the right direction. As you all know, when that was announced, there was a lot of tension on campus about the merging of ITS and the library. And I think that if we successfully bring those groups together, it can just serve as an example of how the entire campus can work together across departments and divisions and students and faculty. As far as the football team, I think that it has a lot of potential benefits for Southwestern, as we've all heard. And once again, that was also definitely a point of a lot of tension whenever the announcement was first made on campus. But I think that was due to a lot of miscommunication and misrepresentation of facts. And so I think that once the football team is here, if it's successfully implemented and it doesn't affect our academic program, then I think that it can really help Southwestern's visibility and just create a new atmosphere on campus while keeping our same spunky, unique Southwestern personality.
Corbett.
I agree with most of everything Erin said. They're not really points of contention, really, besides the fact that I think I envision the external affairs chair as being having more communication with actual students in Georgetown community. Yes, we can definitely extend our outreach to Georgetown, but if we're not a cohesive whole, then how can we be talking to the Board of Trustees and the Georgetown community without knowing what our student body believes? So.
I'm also really excited about the external affairs position because I think that most organizations on this campus have someone designated to talk to other organizations and to get their organization involved in what other organizations are doing. And I think that since we're such a small community, it is important for us to have a lot of presence on campus, more than just being secluded in Dan Rather room every other week and people not knowing what we're doing kind of thing. And I think that the external affairs chair will be a really good step towards, as Erin mentioned, creating cohesiveness on campus and not bringing us kind of down from a governing body to a student organization. I understand that we are a governing body, but as far as field goes, and I think that the football program is really exciting because, especially under the leadership of Coach Austin, the football coach, Because I've read a lot about him, and one of his tactics is to get students to come to the university first and then participate in the football program, so that we're not bringing in football players who aren't really going to succeed at Southwestern or fit in at Southwestern outside of the football program, so that even if they quit football, they still have this community that they feel like they're a part of and that they appreciate and that they add to. And so I don't think that, I think that the football program will add a lot to our university and our community for sure. And I'm not really that educated on the CIO, so I don't really want to speak to that.
Thank you. Any other questions?
So I know y'all talked about a lot about have y'all all been in student congress, obviously, and how social media doesn't really work to grab the student body's attention. I was wondering how personally, one-on-one, y'all can contact the student body and let them know about, I feel like, these changes that have probably been brought up in the past, maybe not implemented, but how y'all can change the system, and maybe with personal connections, one-on-one, through like word of mouth at Southwestern, it's not a very big school, implement these changes y'all are talking about.
Basically, it still goes with the idea of the new external affairs chair. He or she can talk to any representative of any student organization on campus, and I believe that most likely will be the key to improving communication. Also,
Also, I believe that the external affairs chair will do a lot for like getting our forums and our discussions and activities out to other organizations. Additionally, I think that making representatives more accountable to their constituents in whatever way that we do that will do a lot for increasing participation in those activities. Like a lot of you are members of fraternities, and I think that one of the reasons that all of your events are so successful is because your members get really excited about it and tell everybody, and I don't know if that necessarily happens in Student Congress. And so I think that making people feel more that they have a community within Student Congress will do a lot to like foster participation in Student Congress events.
As I previously mentioned, and kind of going off of what Heather said, I think that word of mouth is really the only form of communication that actually works on our campus. We can try campus notices and Facebook and email and posters, but somehow we're all so busy in our classes and everything going on that we just don't really pay attention. And so I think that we need to come up with creative ways to actually like train our student congress representatives so they know how to reach out to their constituents. You know, things like having meetings in their residence hall so that they can actually talk to their constituents about what's going on and what we need to see on campus. Because I think that's really the only way that we're going to be able to communicate with the student body, is if every single representative on student congress feels accountable and feels a responsibility to their position, that they need to be active and engaged in the student body and be informed about what's going on.
Great. Questions?
As a minority on this campus, I know that something that is often avoided is their lack of a voice on campus. And I know that we like to sugarcoat things and not think that it's a reality, but it's a reality on Southwestern campus. So there are definitely groups such as the CSJ, Ebony, Pan Nation, and different groups like that that feel like they're not represented. So how would you connect student congress to different groups like that in order to better our campus and actually create an effective Southwestern community?
I'm a sociology major, so I really understand the like problems of racial tension on a predominantly white campus, and I think that diversity on campus is definitely something that we need to improve, especially for the cohesiveness of our community, which I know I've talked about that a lot. Community, like, it's really important to me that nobody on this campus feels like they're being alienated or ostracized for trivial characteristics. And, but I would like to point out that CDSJ does have a position on Student Congress, and so that organization in particular is represented. But I think that going back to the External Affairs chair, that's definitely something that could start going out to the organizations that aren't represented and that do feel that they're kind of marginalized on campus, and let their voice filter into our Congress.
Erin.
I think that we also need to work towards engaging more students in our elections. Every year we have a really hard time getting more than 10 freshman representatives to run for the position. And I don't think it's a matter of minorities being elected to Student Congress. It's a bigger issue of getting a diverse group of students in many aspects to run for Student Congress. So I think our elections chair next year really needs to work to publicize elections and reach out to different student groups on campus, and especially in the freshman class, and make sure they understand how important their role is on Student Congress, so that they can get more involved on campus. I think it was a really good step in the right direction to add a CDSJ representative on Student Congress, and they've had a really big impact this year and added a new voice to Student Congress. So I think we just need to keep going in that direction and finding new students to add a new angle to Student Congress, whether it's through racial diversity or political diversity or religious diversity or anything else.
Any questions? Oh, sorry, Corbett.
Okay. No, I agree with the other things that y'all said, mainly that new external affairs again. I went to the Trayvon Martin Forum last week, and yes, it was very helpful, and I enjoyed it a lot. I know everybody that went enjoyed it. But the people that attended were people that wanted to hear about Trayvon Martin and had a certain view on the situation, and those aren't the people that need to be told about or educated. So, like, increasing minority voice probably should be one of our primary issues, because it's not going to, if you like educate people in those certain aspects, people that need to be educated aren't going to attend. So maybe having minority groups help us decide student body forum topics, or just putting it at the forefront is probably what we need the most.
Great. Any other questions?
So it's just a comment and then a question. It sounds like you guys are going to be giving the external affairs person a lot to do. There is also a public affairs person, right, that's sort of meant to, am I free to help me out on this one?
Yeah, it's kind of a point of information. The External Affairs Chairman, in the Constitution, it says that they're responsible for dealing with all entities outside of Southwestern University, whereas public relations deals with all entities within Southwestern University.
Cool, and then my question is just completely different. So we brought up, like, this year on Student Congress was the size of Student Congress, whether or not it, as it is effective enough, whether it's bloated, and whether or not a smaller, more effective size of Student Congress would be better. I just wanted to get your guys' views on that.
Well, personally, I don't think it's that, it's not excessively large. We really only have 1 or 2 representatives from each building on campus, and I think that making it so that there are smaller areas of constituencies, so that Ward Center 1 only is responsible for the opinions and interests of Ward Center 1 is kind of helpful in keeping representatives accountable, rather than having, the entire population being your constituent. You know what I mean? So I think it kind of helps break it down and seem less less macro.
I think the issue of representation is something that we need to keep working on. I think me, Heather, and Brady were all at an academic affairs council meeting when we were working on the protected time policy, if you heard about that. And we actually ran into a problem because certain faculty members or members of the community felt like Student Congress wasn't representative. So even though we had a unanimous vote of 30-something members, that still didn't count as the student body's voice. And so I think that it's really important. I don't think that we should shrink the number of people on Congress. I think that would be kind of counterintuitive. But a possible solution would be having more focus groups on Congress, so that we can get more accomplished and assign people specific tasks and duties that maybe that they can take more accountability over, instead of just having everyone come to a meeting and not say anything.
I actually don't think that representatives' accountability is really the main issue. I think that if we make the student body as a whole care more about student congress, the representatives therefore would care more, and not vice versa, because they can get away with just going to meetings and living their own lives. But if we actually bring student congress policies to the forefront of the student body, then representatives will therefore be more accountable and more driven. So that's what I would answer the question about make sure student congress.
What would you do so that, I know athletes represent about 30% of students in the school's population, yet they're vastly underrepresented on student congress just because that's when all of them practice, except for tennis, as you can attest to, and track has a more flexible schedule too. How do you see resolving that issue? Because I know many athletes I talk to feel like they don't know anything about what student congress does, or they feel completely underrepresented. I ran for student congress freshman year and got it, but I couldn't do it because I played lacrosse. So what would be your response to that?
I do think that that's a really big issue because we have athletes every year that run for student congress and are elected and then can't actually represent their fellow athletes. I think that we could definitely look at changing the time of the meetings, but unfortunately evenings kind of work best for everyone in the student body. But I think maybe we could possibly look at having different meeting times every other meeting or something like that so we could accommodate more students. I don't know. I don't really have a great solution. I think that there needs to be one. I'm not exactly sure what that is.
Corbett?
Yeah, I mean, I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, it's tough because, I mean, meeting times, we're all involved in so many different things, including school. I mean, as an athlete, I can attest that it takes up a lot of your time. Especially with even more athletes coming in, it'll be a more relevant problem in the future that needs to be addressed.
I mean, I definitely think it's an issue, but it's kind of just a problem of what time works best for the majority of people. And I do think that athletes have a unique perspective of what goes on at Southwestern and of their experience. And I mean, the meeting time doesn't work for me. Like, it's really hard for me to make the meeting time. And I think that's true for a lot of people. It seems that almost everything starts at 6:30 or 6. And so I don't really know when a perfect time would be, maybe even on the weekend, on a Sunday night, I don't know. Or just pushing it back or something. I'm not sure what the actual solution is. But like Erin said, I do agree that they do need to be more represented on campus. Because they really do. They're kind of one of those minority populations that need to have their opinions voiced.
Yeah, I just thought of a possible solution that we can definitely look into. In the new course grid, there is a reserved time. I think it's from like 11 to noon once a month, and it's reserved for the student body forum so that there aren't any classes during that time. And so I think we should look into having a protected time for student congress meetings and also student body forums. They could share that time and just meet on their weeks.
I also think it's really important, and we brought this up a lot in the protected time legislation, that as a student at Southwestern, like, you make choices and you can't be involved in absolutely everything. And I understand that athletics is something that's really important to a lot of students, but so is being on a governing body. It's kind of like a choice that you make, what is more important to you as a student athlete or as a student member of an organization, to what you devote your time to. It's not really possible for everything to work for everyone at all times.
Any other questions?
Actually, thank you. You guys have been talking a lot about one of the bigger problems being getting people excited about student congress. Do you guys have any specific ideas that you guys have in store? Yeah, that's big. So, or just anything you really thought of?
I mean, it sounds kind of lame, but I think since we have like a board of trustees mixture, to have like a mixture with the student body, anybody who wants to, has a concern that needs to be voiced, or leaders in student organizations. I think that having a mixture ourselves, since I'm on Montague and I know that a lot can be accomplished in like 10 minutes of us just talking to each other. And I think that might help.
Unfortunately, we just tried to have a mixer like that about a month ago, the Cocoa with Congress or something like that, and people just didn't show up for it. So I think that goes back to getting more people engaged with Student Congress as they come in as freshmen. And I know that they're looking at having representatives from Student Foundation and Student Congress go into FYSs and talk to the first years and be like, hey, I'm your representative, I'm here to do whatever you need me to do for you, so that they're aware that Student Congress exists, at least from the very beginning as soon as they come into Southwestern. And then I also think we just need a really big focus on Student Congress representatives reaching out to their constituents and having a really open communication between the two of them. And I feel like if people know that that form of communication is there and that they have someone to talk to whenever they have an issue on campus or whenever they just have a really awesome idea that they like to see happen, then maybe more people would use it. But right now I just think the majority of campus is unaware that it even exists.
I mentioned I was election chair this year, and the only population that I didn't have trouble getting representatives for was the freshmen. And as Erin's talking about, it's kind of a get them while they're young, like get them interested kind of thing, and keep them interested through like having a really meaningful and interesting meeting that's like full of initiatives and full of like things that they can actually get involved in outside of those meetings. And I don't think it's kind of a circular logic of getting the student body interested by like doing awesome things on Student Congress, but not being able to do awesome things on Student Congress because our representatives don't really care that much or don't have time or whatever the reason may be. And so I think for me, I think it's a lot more important to like have that change come from within Student Congress and build up that community and like sense of responsibility for the state of our university. That will really help kind of get people excited about Student Congress and break down how to deal with it.
Any other questions?
I know that you all were talking about first years, and I just had a flashback to our, whatever that unnecessary week of us being here before school started. All those conferences that we had that were wasting my time, and I could have spent that time with my mom. But I know that throughout that time we had, what's his name? Jack somebody.
Parker.
Yeah. I know me and a lot of my friends were confused about what exactly he was over, and I thought for the longest until I met Brady that he was Student Congress president. And I know that coming in, we as freshmen, like you guys said, were so eager to like be a part because it's so new and fresh to us. So what ways do you think you can implement kind of getting the freshmen's attention? Maybe you can talk to Jerry Brody or someone to have like a time where y'all just go, don't have on a suit or anything, just go and talk, or address it, go and talk to the kids and just, get them involved.
I think that, I know this happened the year before last, but Student Congress went and talked during pirate training, I think it's called, and they went and talked to first years and kind of explained what our role is and who our executive council is. And I was abroad right before school started, so I don't know if that happened this year, but that's definitely a way to just make people aware that Student Congress exists and that their participation in it is really feasible. And also, somebody mentioned it, but having representatives have little meetings with their constituents, especially since we do have such small constituencies, it is really possible for representatives to go and talk for like a minute during an RA meeting or something like that, just to kind of like give people updates and reinforce our abilities and like kind of bring what we've been doing to the forefront of the minds of our constituents. So.
Engaging the first years is actually something that I've been thinking about and working on for a while. I'm kind of working on an initiative between Student Foundation and Student Congress and creating a student's guide to Southwestern that's written by students with all the information that a freshman should know when they come in that no one ever tells them. And so part of that is what I mentioned before, going into the FYS groups, maybe not during class, but like going into connects with students, and maybe not just standing in Bishop's Island and saying like, hey, come talk to us if you have a question, but actually going to where people live or in the cove when everyone's hanging out and just having conversations.
I just don't know if that's feasible because that takes up a significant amount of time and requires meeting and planning out. But it's just, I think it honestly, again, comes down to just making student Congress just a bigger deal for the entire student body, because people talking about it is what's going to like make freshmen be like, oh, I want to become a student Congress representative, not just like focusing on little groups and such. It's all about making people excited by building a frisbee golf course. I don't know. I mean, it's about the little things that like people see on campus. It's about like improving the parking. Like people actually really care about that, and I'm really excited that we're improving parking. And although we haven't really done much with the commons food, that's another thing that excites kids too. It's just stuff like that. It's having things that are visible and making them visible is what's going to make student Congress great in the future.
Fantastic. I think that's all the time that we have for the debate. So thank you all for coming out and attending. Thank you guys for answering the questions. And make sure you come out and vote this Thursday and Friday from 9 a.m. till 7 p.m. in Bishop's Lounge. Thank you guys.